July 28, 1962, Marvin Griffin returns to Stone Mountain. For the fourth great rally in his historic campaign for a return to the governorship, Marvin Griffin comes to Stone Mountain, an appropriate site for a Griffin rally. For it was here 8 years ago, during the 1954 campaign for the governorship, that Marvin Griffin promised to purchase Stone Mountain for the people of Georgia and to develop the mountain into one of the greatest scenic and tourist attractions of this country. When he became governor, Marvin Griffin carried out that promise. Stone Mountain was purchased for the people. And at the governor's request, the General Assembly established the Stone Mountain Memorial Association, an official body that is now moving full speed ahead with development of the mountain. Stone Mountain. There's nothing quite like it anywhere else in the entire world. Yet, every effort to develop the mountain failed until Marvin Griffin made his historic promise here just 8 years ago. And Marvin Griffin lived up to his promise. Where so many others had failed, Governor Marvin Griffin succeeded. Today's rally is a critical one for the Griffin campaign. It's been raining off and on all day long. So if a great crowd were to show up here today, it would probably be a surprise even to Marvin Griffin himself. On top of that, the Atlanta newspapers, in an attempt to downgrade the great Griffin rallies that have preceded this one, have repeatedly declared that political rallies are a thing of the past. The great Griffin rallies at Americus and Statesboro have proved that that charge is false so far as the smaller cities and counties of the state are concerned. But how about metropolitan Atlanta? Can Marvin Griffin draw a crowd here? Can he do it in the rain? Well, if he can, the Atlanta papers will once again have been caught off base. This is the vast parking area where thousands of cars are already parked. License tags show that people have come from all parts of the state to attend this rally. They also show, and listen to this, that the bulk of this great crowd is comprised of people from Fulton, DeKalb, and Cobb counties. And so Marvin Griffin has done it once again, and this time he did it on a soggy field, with rain threatening to start falling at any moment, while Carl Sanders, who you may recall is also attempting to run in this race, himself to the test, does not dare to try to hold a rally because he's scared nobody will show up. Marvin Griffin moves ahead, staging rallies that are greater and greater and get greater as the Saturdays go by. And now, ready to speak to Atlanta and to Georgia, here he is, Georgia's next governor, Marvin Griffin.
Distinguished local, county, and state officials, distinguished platform guests, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Georgians, those present and those of the radio audience. I would like to thank, too, our wonderful hosts on this occasion, Douglas and Lucille McCready, who are kind enough to let us use their front yard. And I want to say to Erastus McGill and the others, when they print, if they do, which I seriously doubt it, the number of people who are here today, just let it be said that there's about 6 acres of folks on Gunboat. I am happy this afternoon to be speaking in DeKalb County in the shadow of Stone Mountain. This great natural phenomenon, this historical shrine, this great state power when properly advertised, will be the greatest tourist attraction in this nation and will draw several million additional tourists to our state and will bring more dollars into the cash registers of the business people of DeKalb County and this entire metropolitan area. A tourist dollar, my fellow Georgians, is a new dollar. It is a dollar we did not have before. I'm a little mad this afternoon. In fact, I'm mad aplenty, and I'm plenty mad. I spoke in the rain the other night at Winder to a North Georgia rally of about 10 counties of friends standing in the rain somewhere between that and 3 speeches. The next day at Columbus, I contracted a little cold, but it doesn't amount to very much. And if I didn't have this cold, that's why it makes me mad. I want to lay out these juries this afternoon a little bit harder than I have before. But now, in 1954, I spoke to a rally of friends at Stone Mountain, Georgia, on July the 12th. I pointed to Stone Mountain then as I point to it now, and the Honorable Harvey Weatherly of DeKalb County introduced me to this rally of friends. I went to that county, or this county rather, in 1954 to solicit the support of the good people of DeKalb County. And I told them that afternoon that if they elected me governor, I would buy for the state of Georgia Stone Mountain. I would complete the Confederate carving on the face of the mountain, develop this great park as a tourist attraction, and carry to successful completion a project that had been a failure for 30 years and a mark against the wisdom and the vision of the people of our great state. I was elected governor. I carried out this promise, and I bought the mountain with surplus funds from, whom do you guess? Mills B. Lane and his associates. Now, my fellow Georgians, I don't know how much profit Mills B. Lane and his associates made on the sale of this historical shrine on the first 1,516 acres, but I have been told by reliable authority that the profit was substantial. Now, the General Assembly, at my request, set up the Stone Mountain Memorial Association, and I don't know all the titles, but the chief factotum and the most ardent admirer I have ever known, the Honorable Scott Candler, sits here nurturing, nursing, and watching that project to completion. The development of this state park will enhance the economy of the people of the metropolitan area. But it will bring tourist money to all sections of Georgia. My fellow Georgians, Georgia cannot afford the slick-tongued, the forky-tongued propagandists who are trying their best to drive a wedge between the people of one section of Georgia and the people who live in another. The government of Georgia and the governor of Georgia ought to feed all of the port cities of our state out of the same spoon and to try to develop their facilities. He ought, and his administration ought, to be just as interested in the problems of big Atlanta as he is in the problems of little Bainbridge. When I was governor of this state, I was just as interested in seeing the Continental Can Company set up and construct a plant in Richmond County as I was to see a latex manufacturing company settle in Manchester, Newnan, all the Grange, Georgia. You have to have good schools and good highways and good public health facilities for all of Georgia and for not just a part of it. The state, too, can do very well without interference in its affairs by the federal judiciary. There are many issues, my friends, that can be solved a lot better by political means at the ballot box than by going into court every day or two to litigate. I was raised to believe that the courts existed to settle disputes between individuals so that the community could have peace and quiet. This may be an old-fashioned viewpoint, but it is still my viewpoint, and I still cling to it. Courts ought to approach interference with the laws and the customs of the people with a great deal more wisdom than they have been showing in recent years and in recent days. Georgia could do a lot better without some of its troublemakers and its rabble-rousers. Now, Atlanta possesses a would-be pretended dictator named Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King took up his domicile in Georgia after he left Alabama, which was shortly, my friends, after I left the governor's office. Now, even the NAACP is not rough enough or radical enough or troublesome enough for Martin Luther King. He has set himself up an organization of his own that is dedicated to violence and law-breaking. Now, you know, Martin Luther King must have been cutting up something ugly and awful down there in Albany, because even my opponent has gotten up enough courage to criticize him. You know, when Chief Larry Pritchett and them discharged their duties and they put Martin Luther King way back in the jailhouse, my opponent, this short-shirted, arrogant opponent of mine, he reminds me of Fido. He's barking at him now through the cracks, but you don't want him to. He doesn't want you to throw him over the fence on the same side with him, see, because that's where he belongs. That's where he belongs. Now, I promise you, my fellow Georgians, and really, I do not know of any laws on the statute books of Georgia that will let me, as governor, banish anybody. I don't know of any laws that will let the governor excommunicate anybody, like my opponent is talking about, go run him out of Georgia. No, I'm not going to do that, because I don't know of any laws that would let me do it. But I know there's some laws on the statute books for committing nuisances, disturbing the peace, acting ugly that's against the law. And I promise you this, if he isn't gone from here by then, I'll put him so far back in the jailhouse you'll have to pipe after him. Now, my friend, who is encouraging Martin Luther King to exhort to acts of violence in Georgia? Who is responsible for his ugly and despicable actions perpetrated upon the good people of Albany, Georgia? I can tell you who is responsible. He is being encouraged, and his efforts are being backed financially by Mills B. Lane, president of the C&S National Bank, and the biggest and the richest banker in Georgia. This man, Lane, is financially supporting my opponent in this race for governor. First, my opponent said he wasn't doing it. Then I smoked him out, and he says his campaign managers are borrowing that money on those open unsecured loans. Now, my opponent has been promised the support of Martin Luther King and the nigger block vote of the Atlanta political machine. One of my friends the other day asked me this question. He said, "How do you know, Marvin, that Martin Luther King is supporting your opponent in this race for governor?" And of course, my immediate reply was, "Well, he sure ain't supporting me." And, my friends, it seems to be fashionable these days in this campaign to wave checks. I'm going to get somebody to clean up the lawn for Douglas and Lucille after I get through with this. Now I'm going to throw out some documentary proof today that Mills B. Lane bought in 1961 some of the Negro block vote in the Atlanta mayor's race. That was last fall. These checks that I hold in my hand are photostats of a check for $20 drawn on the Ivan Allen campaign fund, signed by Mills B. Lane Jr., made out to a Negro citizen of the city of Atlanta and a voter of Atlanta for the purpose of buying his vote. And this Negro says many of his neighbors got some of these checks, but a friend of mine bought this one for $20. Take it and look at it. Now, after my friends, after buying the Atlanta Negro block vote, Mills B. Lane, Ralph McGill, Ivan Allen, and the Atlanta political machine got biggity enough to believe that they could buy the governorship of this state, but they can't do it. My friends, I think my time has about expired, but let me say to you, it is most gratifying. I want the photographers to be sure to get this crowd with the threat of rain, inclement weather. You have turned out here by the thousands. I appreciate it. It shows what the folks of our state are thinking. It shows that they are resolute. They are determined. They will not surrender their rights in this sovereign state of ours. They will not surrender their rights. Now, I want you to help me pull the cloak, the pretended cloak of respectability from around the shoulders of my arrogant, short-shirted opponent. They've dressed him up mightily. Every day. Now he said to me, not to me, he said in public print, I am not going to say anything else about Marvin Griffin. Oh, yes, he is. Oh, yes, he is, too. Oh, yes, he is. I got news for him for this reason. He made some serious charges on me, and he's either got to prove them or tell the folks of Georgia he told a lie, apologize, and get out of this race. How many of you read Little Bit Patterson in the Atlanta Constitution this morning? Hold up your head. Now you can always tell when they're trying to wear the hair shirt. You can always tell, my fellow Georgians, when it begins to cut pretty hard on them. Last Saturday at Statesboro, we had the chairman and 8 members of the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. They've been right and said, why, to be sure, they shouldn't have been on Griffin's platform. Now, suppose they had been on my opponent's platform. Now, another thing, and I want to know about it, and I want you to know about it. About 2 months ago, the chairman of the Highway Board said he was for Sanders, and they blew the bugle and rang the bell, kicked the door, and ran like thunder. All right. They bugled it to beat the band. Jim Gillis is for Sanders. All right. They haven't bragged about that lately, have they? Well, I tell you why. They're not as exactly proud of it as they want to be. For this reason. He's using tax money. You know, here's another thing. It's most peculiar, my fellow Georgians. Now, I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. I don't mean that. But here's something that's most peculiar. My opponent's 2 campaign managers, Wick Knox and Walter Dow. Now, Wick is the head of a highway contracting fund. And so is Walter. 2 of them. And you know, Wick got 8 road contracts the other day that amounted to over $1 million. Of course, now, you know, if that had been under old Marvin Griffin, oh, it had been awful. It had been awful. But you know, they haven't mentioned that thing anymore about how proud they were that the chairman of the Highway Board of Georgia was helping them in that campaign. Yes, he's helping them. And he's helping them with your money. Now, my friend, I wish to tell you very briefly, and my time is running out, what I propose to do to help us in Georgia during the next 4 years. I am not going into detail about education. I've done so many times, and I'll cover it again in the speeches to come. No industrial development, nor the road program. But I am going to talk to you a little about some of the problems that we have. I conferred several days ago with a delegation representing dedicated retired teachers who have retired after 35 or 40 years service. The delegation was headed by Miss Allie Mann, whom most of you know. I told Miss Allie that during my administration that I had put a floor of $100 a month minimum under retirement pay for teachers, and that all retired teachers were not sharing in this program as I intended for them to do. When I am governor, I shall do whatever is necessary to see that these devoted but forgotten retired teachers get more than a mere pittance for their years of devotion to the children of this state. Now let me talk just a moment with you about school building problems in our growing areas. I recognize that in these rapidly growing areas, such as DeKalb, Cobb, Fulton, Clayton, Gwinnett, and other similar counties throughout the state, the school population is literally mushrooming. In DeKalb County alone, where we stand, you will have approximately 16,000 more school children attending school by next January. These children are not reflected in the allocations for capital outlay funds. You folks in these dynamically growing areas have done a superb job on the local level in meeting your building needs. I'm proud of you. But in the county of DeKalb and others, you have already bonded yourselves to the limit. Your bonded capacity is exhausted, and I shall call upon the General Assembly out of fairness to you and to these other growing sections to let the state of Georgia help you pick up the tab on these school buildings that you have to build every year. When a county is bonded to its legal limits and there's still a shortage of classrooms, the state should participate to a high degree in your school building programs and problems. Now, I'm going to appropriate these funds to the Board of Education under the exceptional needs for capital outlay plan, which was passed before I came into office during the administration of the Honorable Herman Townsend. I'm going to do this, and I'll tell you another thing I'm going to do. Every school child in Georgia is entitled to a free school book. And those needs are not reflected for the year to come. They're based on last year's allotment. But there are thousands of children in DeKalb County that don't have free school books like the children in the rural counties, and you're entitled to feed everybody out of the same spoon, and I'm going to give you those free school books because you're entitled. Now, my friends, you say, where are you going to get the money? Well, I'll tell you where I'm going to get the money. I'm going to get it out of that $331 million additional money that they're collecting over there now. They got $331 million more than I ever had. And we're going to take it, and we're going to do the very best we can with it all over Georgia, just not in some places. And another thing, I'm going to cut off those 5,000 useless employees. I'm not talking about the dedicated employees. You need not have any fear. I'm talking about those they put on there to try to help win this governor's race. Now, those are the ones. Now, in conclusion, let me say this. The issue is squarely up to us. It's up to us, and we are fighting for survival. I want all of you in this crowd who will go with me on election day and from now until election day to let's wipe out and let's trim the spurs of Ivan Allen, Mills B. Lane, Ralph McGill, and Martin Luther King. Hold up your hands.
And so Marvin Griffin returns to Stone Mountain, and thousands of his fellow Georgians, thousands of citizens from Fulton, DeKalb, and Cobb counties meet him there. Heartened by the great reception they give, and encouraged by the dwindling strength of his opponent, Marvin Griffin now looks to the fifth great rally in his historic campaign for a return to the governorship. Next Saturday, August 4th, at Dublin, Georgia, citizens will again come by the thousands from throughout the state, and they will come to take their stand with Marvin Griffin. If you're concerned about Georgia's future, if you want Georgia's government to be returned to the people, you're urged to come to Dublin next Saturday and take your stand with Marvin Griffin.